Live, Laugh, Larceny discusses true petty crimes that may be disturbing to some.
Or could be easy listening to all you psychopaths out there.
All stories are based on actual events, but details may vary.
Listener discretion is not advised.
Live,
Laugh.
Larceny. Welcome to Live, Laugh, Larceny. A house cat's killer instinct. Rare.
It was so spooky there at the start of that, Trevin.
Thank you.
It gradually got a lot cuter, though, and I liked it.
Yes. I didn't actually make a Halloween intro line this year. I guess I'd never thought about that ahead of time.
Yeah.
But when I think of a house cat's killer instinct, I was picturing a black cat, if that helps.
Yes, that does help. Thank you. Thank you for that consideration.
And if I can say one thing about a black cat that makes me think about Halloween is I just got back from North Adams, Massachusetts for the Berkshires Podcast Festival.
Uh-huh.
Emily and I went and walked one of the trails there called the Cascades Trail, and it takes you up to a waterfall, which the waterfall wasn't too big or crazy this year. But anyway, the town, it's just like an old town out in the mountainy area, and it reminds me of anything from like Hocus Pocus or one of these old movies that I would watch.
Yeah, like it gave spooky, cozy, cutesy town vibes.
Yes. But as we got on the trail, a random black cat was just walking down the Cascades Trail, and he walked right past us, and Emily snapped a couple pictures of him.
I saw that. I forgot to ask you about that.
It felt very Halloween-y, and I loved it.
Wow. That is the Halloween spirit itself. So, Trevin.
Yes.
What is your dreadful dilemma?
My dreadful dilemma is actually a spooky dilemma because, of course, this is a Halloween episode, but also it's a true one that kind of is me sharing a part of myself. It's kind of interesting. So I have had this nightmare that has haunted me for a very long time, couple years, I would say, but it happens so many times in a night, or it's always just a small detail in my dreams that sometimes during the day I have to remind myself that it's not actually in my real life.
What?
So it's kind of creepy. And trigger warning, this will have to do with self-harm.
Oh, no. Okay.
But in this dream, I have a man who hangs himself in my tree in my backyard. And the first time it ever happened, I had saw him up there, and I was like, oh my gosh, because it was like really high up. And I found out that he was my depressed neighbor. Him and his wife weren't getting along, so he was supposed to have like left or something.
Okay.
And then for some reason, he hung himself in my tree. In one of my first dreams with it, I had went to the police department and said, hey, this is what happened. And I told the fire department, it was like a dream, so nothing made sense.
Right.
But they were like, it's not his yard. He's your neighbor. It's kind of weird. They're like, we're not going to, basically.
What?
And so I was really mad about it. So in my dreams now that follow, there are plenty of dreams where I will think in the dream world, I always have this guy hanging in my tree.
Okay, I have some questions.
Okay.
Does it look exactly like your tree in your yard right now?
No.
What yard and tree is it? Is it familiar to you? Is it a known place in reality? Or is it just a dream yard?
It's just a dream yard with a big, tall tree in my backyard.
And it's always the same?
Pretty much. He did it off of a branch where there were still other branches below him, because in my dreams, depending on the dream, he is in a different state of decay.
Ah!
Or he's not much there at all.
Oh my God. They don't have a recognizable face of someone you know in real life
No.
at all. Okay. That was another question I had.
In the earlier parts of the dream, I could see his face. It wasn't anybody that I knew. I didn't want to look at it very much in the very first time it ever happened. I was just so frightened by it.
I don't blame you at all.
As the dreams have gone on, I've gotten more courage to look, but he has been more decomposed now to where he doesn't much have a face anymore.
So how often do you have these, did you say?
Oh, it happens all the time.
Like how many times a week?
At least I would say at least once a week, maybe 2 times a week.
That is often.
And it's not always about that, but it could just be like, oh, I'm having a dream that I'm eating an ice cream in an ice cream truck, and I look in my backyard. Oh, shit, there's that guy. So it's like that. It's not so much that my dreams are about it, but he's just a figure that shows up in my dreams a lot.
That is so terrifying. I'm not trying to make this even worse for you.
No, it's fine.
But he's just like a looming creature of death lurking in the background of your dreams, Trevin, that often?
Pretty much. And I told Emily multiple times, I've just been like, I have to tell myself a lot that this isn't in our backyard sometimes.
It isn't.
It's almost just a thing where it's like, oh yeah, that's just the rules in this place. That's what it is.
Do you remember anything that happened right before you had the first one in your real life?
No.
Huh.
I don't.
Okay. I'm just trying to dig a little deeper here. First of all, dreams fascinate me a lot. And I kind of talked about it in the elevator story that I just told recently that I used to have.
Your doom or whatever.
Yes. It's a fear of mine because I used to have a dream, a nightmare that would happen all the time. And now it's very rare. But I still do have them from time to time. Nothing like what you're saying. But I would have them a lot of the elevator dropping when I would get inside. And so, yeah, I'm just very fascinated about like what it means. Have you ever just Googled, because I used to do this a lot. I would be like, what does it mean when elevators are falling in dreams? Or what is like some common, what am I trying to say?
Like a dream journal sort of a thing?
Yeah,
like what does it metaphorically mean or whatever?
Yes. They would give like a lot of different options because they can sometimes obviously mean different things for different people. But there were a lot of times where I would connect to something that it said that was going on in my real life.
I want to say that I did, but I couldn't find something that was that specific. I guess I would probably have to look each kind of thing, like the decay.
You need to look up like, what does it mean when there is always a hanging person in a tree in my dream?
Yes.
Like very specific.
Nobody wants to clean them up. The fire department wouldn't do it. And it's just like, that's part of your tree now.
That is so weird, Trevin.
And that's just normal in my dreams for some reason.
I need to know why. We're going to do some deep diving on this later on, okay?
I bet we've got some listeners that have some ideas.
This might be one that'll get the listeners chatting.
Yeah.
Well, that is fucking dreadful. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I also have a dreadful dilemma, and it has to do with Halloween.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Shocker. But this year is the first Halloween party that I am doing the Halloween games.
Oh, yes, our little collaboration idea.
Which I have to give you a lot of credit for. I was talking to Trevin about it, and it's not a murder mystery year. It's just going to be like a normal costume party year. But I wanted it to be special and have something new. And wasn't it kind of like you were like, why don't you do something like the Beer Olympics, but make it Halloween? Wasn't that how it went?
Beer Olympics, and also the Olympics were going on, I think, around the time you had asked me.
That's true. They were. So it's our very own Olympic Halloween games. And it's going great. I actually did a lot of work on the games today. I have little speeches I'm going to say in between each one, explaining them. Like I'm getting, you know how I do, Trevin.
Oh yeah, we need to get you some like horns to play like off your speakers when you do it.
Actually, because I'm going to be Chapel Roan, I can just have a mic. So I might just have to shout it out. But it's all lined up. It's all going good so far.
Good.
But what's dreadful about it is that I've never done it before, and I'm just really freaked out that it's not going to land. You know, anytime you do something new, there's always that fear of, oh, this might just be that year where everyone's like, remember that time Amanda tried to do the games? Oh.
I don't think it's going to work that way. It's kind of like I was getting stage fright before doing my live show at the Berkshires, but I was doing a live reading of a podcast called The Karen and Ellen Letters.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to shoehorn my story back in, but I kept telling myself, oh my gosh, what if I do a really bad job? Whatever. I didn't have to act like off the top of my head. I was just reading something.
Yeah.
And I knew that the thing I was reading was already such good content. It didn't really matter.
Yes.
And one thing that I think about with why I had even suggested the games thing in the first place was that sometimes your male crowd is not always engaged.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a lot of people's problem sometimes is their male
that's
crowd.
The whole world's problem, Trevin.
Is not engaged. But you do a good job and you're lucky that a lot of them play along with your murder mystery,
Yeah.
it wouldn't take too many of them to just be like, fuck it, and just kill it completely and make it almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
So you do a great job with that. But I thought what the boys always want to do is play beer pong, or they want to play a skills challenge, something where they can challenge themselves, like man against nature. Like, can I hit a dartboard while I'm shit-faced? Or it's like a competitive thing, like, oh, can I play beer pong and beat my friend?
Yes.
So then I thought, give something more to the boys.
Yeah.
And have something where it's a skills challenge and something where everybody can have fun playing games. So even if your presentation's a little goofy, your presentation isn't the main event. It's them
totally
in the competitive spirit.
With the murder mystery parties, it really does require some attention span for sure. This, at least it's each event. And if you get eliminated, you don't necessarily have to watch it. But the final events, I'm sure everyone will. But yeah, I'm just nervous, but I think it's going to go really good.
I think it's going to be great.
I'm excited. And I was a little nervous that we were all going to be dressing as Chapel Roan. And when I say we all, it's Trevin, his wife, me, my husband. We're all dressing as Chapel Roan.
Yeah, Emily and I tried to keep it as a secret. And then Amanda made it a story that said, oh, guys, I'm thinking about being Chapel Roan this year. And Emily and I are like, no. So we got to get a hold of her right now and tell her if she's going to do it, she's either with us or against us.
No, I know. Part of my own insecurity was like, oh God, what if I'm just like the shittiest chapel, right?
Oh, I'll be the shittiest chapel, I promise.
Well, I'm feeling much better now after you telling me your plans so far. But these are all dreadful dilemmas that I think are going to turn out to be so much fun. And I seriously cannot wait. And I am going to take many pictures and videos of us dressed as Chapel for all of you.
Yes. We're recording this episode and I have not bought any part of my costume or really done much planning.
Same. I've done planning. I haven't bought it yet, but it's in the works in my mind.
So we're breaking the news here, but all we have is concepts of a plan right now.
You're like, let's not talk ourselves up. Our future selves might really fuck it all up.
Yeah, I don't want you guys to be like, can't wait for the photos. And then the photos come out and it's like,
they're like, oh, you guys are actually garbage.
Yeah.
So for our Halloween episode.
Yes.
I know, and I hope most of you have already listened to our big Halloween episode.
Yes, that's fruits of my labor for the last 2 months.
This is something that Trevin has been working on for, God, how long? Months?
Yeah, I mean, it started in August.
Yeah, this has been our big idea that he has created, and I am so damn proud of it. So definitely go and listen to the collab episode that we did with all of those amazing podcasters, if you haven't already.
Yes, I've finished it at this point. We're recording this before it's come out, so I don't know how it's turned out. We'll probably talk about it again later, but I am really happy about it and really glad to have it out there. So guys, if you don't like anything I do for Halloween today, I've done so much Halloween for you all.
Right, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring that up before we do our game, because I was like, Trevin has really put his heart and spooky soul into that episode.
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry, guys, because I have also brought my spooky heart and soul to this one. I even forced Trevin to do this whole segment because I knew it was going to be so fun, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So this segment, I'm going to call it Halloween Haunts.
Ooh.
The special spooky segment in which we both share a haunted location of our choice. So, like I said, I begged Trevin to do this because I have a perfect location that involves true crime, paranormal activity, and I have personally been there multiple times.
Hell yeah.
And I got a lot of information from a lot of different places, and I wrote my own little book report on it, okay? So enjoy. Here we go. My Halloween haunt is Rocky Ford Bridge, also known as Bird Bridge, located in Emporia, Kansas, where I attended college. The steel truss bridge was built in the 1890s and was moved to its permanent place just outside the town's limits and above the Cottonwood River in 1907. It wasn't until Sunday, July 17th, 1983, when the average country bridge became the location of a sinister crime scene. Hikers found the body of 32-year-old Sandra Bird and her car submerged in the river. The incident was initially called an accident, thinking that the mother of three simply turned incorrectly and missed the bridge, crashing into the water. But after further investigation, it was determined that her minister husband, Tom Bird, of the Lutheran Church, was having an affair with his secretary, Lorna Anderson.
Was there a movie of this?
Yep.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about this once because I heard about it, and I thought Amanda's got to know about this, but she's never really told me about it.
Oh, Trevin.
Okay.
It's heating up. And only months after Sandy's death, Lorna's husband was also killed under mysterious circumstances. The two were later charged for the deaths of their spouses, but years later, Tom was paroled from prison in 2004 and Lorna in 2007. A television film was created based on this case titled Murder Ordained. Okay. Have you heard of it, Trevin?
I've heard of it, but I thought it was a more popular movie than that.
No. It originally aired for CBS in 1987 and is available only on YouTube currently. Over the years, people have claimed to experience paranormal activity on the nicknamed Bird Bridge. Some say they've seen a ghostly figure of a woman walking across the bridge or heard a woman's voice and screams. I visited the bridge multiple times while attending college. I had many eerie experiences at night on the old country bridge, but none of the paranormal sort. My friends and I would always find random articles of clothing scattered around the area, and on occasion would see mysterious rustling in the surrounding crop fields. Yet, the legend still lives on to this day.
So when did you say the deaths were?
1983. Basically, like I said, two couples, one of them minister husband, and the other one was working at my alma mater, Emporia State, as a math teacher, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, whoopsie doopsie, and he has an affair with his secretary, Lorna, who I really don't know much about her husband. They kill both their spouses, like very soon, back to back.
Wow.
But everyone back in the day thought that because he was a minister, like they just assumed it was an accident. They didn't even want to think that a minister could have done it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So going to ESU all those years later, which is kind of crazy because they were actually paroled from prison like right before I went to Emporia.
Oh.
Because it was around, 2004, 2007. So yeah, that was like right before I got there. And they were already out on like good behavior and whatnot. Isn't that wild?
That is wild. I don't understand the criminal justice system.
No. And also, guys, I watched part, and I have to say, part is a key word here, of Murder Ordained, because I didn't know it was over 3 hours long. It's on YouTube and the quality's kind of grainy, not very good. But I have to say, the part that I did watch was pretty well done, and it was shot in Emporia on that bridge.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I like when they can do that.
Another side note, my friend Sarah and I, when we both lived there, she was my roommate at the time, we actually did this really cutesy photo shoot at this bridge.
Oh, being cutesy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to post some of them. They're ridiculous. I'm so young and so weird. I'm like sitting on the rocks, and the rocks are there now to block the opening where her car went into the water. And I'm just modeling on them. Like, what was I thinking back then?
Edgelord. We can Photoshop a ghost behind you. I remembered where I heard this from.
Where?
Shout out to our friends Amanda and Lucy of Wine and Crime.
Oh!
On my way to TCPF in Denver this summer, I was listening to their Kansas Crimes episode while driving through Kansas. I thought that would be a real double whammy because I was also going to meet Wine and Crime. So I thought I'd just mix it all together.
Yeah.
But yes, they told the Emporia's story. And I meant to text you months ago to ask you about it. And here we are now talking about it as you talked to me about it.
I need to give another shout out too, and I meant to put this on my notes actually. The only other podcast that I personally ever heard told the story was Morbid, actually.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so Morbid has a very in-depth, I'm sure Wine and Crime does as well, but I just haven't heard that one. But Morbid does like a very, 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 very deep dive into the whole case. I mainly wanted to briefly talk about the case and then talk about the paranormal lore around the bridge. They talk a lot about the case. If you're really interested in it, I would check them out too.
I never actually heard anything about the paranormal side. I only heard about just the true crime side.
Yep. It was the thing. All of us college girls would get into my car. We'd go out there at night. It's like way far out in the country. No street lights, very dark, very sketch, crop fields all around. It's like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Very eerie vibes.
Yeah, it is Kansas.
Yeah, true.
I'm not saying we're any better here in Missouri either. Speaking of briefly covering something.
Okay.
I actually just wanted to talk about, for only one main reason, but Madame Delphi Lalaurie. Basically, they consider her the first female serial killer. She had a mansion.
Oh my God.
And it was in New Orleans in the French Quarter. I guess it was 1 block from Bourbon Street. And she had slaves that she would torture.
Oh my God. Is this kind of what they based one of the villains in the Coven series
American Horror Story?
Yeah.
Kathy Bates was her. Yep.
Oh my God. I knew that character was based on a real story, but I don't know a lot about the real story.
I haven't found a whole lot of great information. I feel like as the stories have gone on, it's gotten worse and worse and more gruesome and gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, I was watching a YouTube video on it, and somebody had said that she would like break skulls open and take a hot poker and stir their brain while they're still awake or still alive.
Holy shit!
But see, I don't know if I believe that. That's so much, but I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. I really don't.
Yeah.
They also had said that she put poop in people's mouths and sewed their mouth shut.
Oh my God!
Again, that feels a little bit made up, but I didn't get to do a whole lot of looking up. But the main reason why I wanted to look it up is not just because Kathy Bates played as her in American Horror Story, but in 2007, Nicolas Cage bought the mansion.
Oh my God, Nicolas.
And I should clarify, the reason why she got caught was because there was a fire in the house. And when they went to go investigate the fire, put the fire out or whatever, they had uncovered a lot of her torturing devices and things she had done. I think they found people that were like mangled and stuff.
Yeah.
So it ended up getting rebuilt. Where it got rebuilt or however much they added, I don't really know. Nicolas Cage bought that. So he didn't actually buy the original house that all happened in. It was rebuilt from that point.
It was completely demolished?
That I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's a beautiful building.
I don't know. Honestly, even if some of that is fake, like at least there were a few real things.
Oh, yeah.
And I would never, I mean, I doubt he even stays there. He probably owns a lot of properties, but I would never want to own a piece of land that had so much negative energy built on it.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
The lead singer of Korn, I think he bought one of the like Volkswagens that had something to do with Dahmer, I think, or something like that.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that like to own that kind of stuff. But Nicolas Cage bought it in 2007 for $3.4 million, and it got foreclosed on him in 2009.
Nicolas.
If you don't know that much about Nicolas Cage, he had a spending problem and he put himself in a lot of debt, and that's why he actually makes so many movies.
Gotta earn. And he's like, I'll take whatever. I'll steal anything historical.
I did find, though, that it was for sale or is for sale. 3 months ago, an article from Ant Project came out that said the historic Lalaurie mansion and former Nicolas Cage home was for sale in the French Quarter for $10 million.
Whoa, Nicolas, if you just would have paid the rent.
And held on to it.
Held on to that, it would have gone from $3 million to $10 million.
It is listed for $10.25 million or 10 and a quarter. It says, Patrick Knudsen is the realtor for the sale of the Lalaurie mansion. The listing states that it is an Empire-style antebellum mansion with 8 bedrooms, 8 full bathrooms, and 2 partial bathrooms. The 10,284 square foot home also includes a 2,000 bottle wine cellar. The mansion is a popular spot on many French history tours. So that was just talking about it for sale, did not talk anything about the torture or the ghost sightings that people say they have. They're just like, it's a beautiful mansion and Nicolas Cage used to have it.
Yeah, they're like, Nicolas Cage's formal home that is kind of a historical thing that people come to look at often. No need to explain why. It has a beautiful cellar. No?
to give it credit, did say that Kathy Bates portrayed the owner of it in American Horror Story, but they still didn't say anything about it being spooky or anything.
They're like, it's haunted as fuck. They left that whole part out.
I would think that even if I was trying to sell it, I would do that to get the buzz. You know?
It's kind of weird not to for so many reasons. But you know what products will have you buzzing for days?
Whatever comes after this.
And we are back. I'm going first this week with my Halloween petty crime story.
And I bet you saved the best for last, because I know you told a good one last week.
Yes, I certainly did. I have to give you a little bit of credit here, Trevin.
Thank you.
I was really inspired by the storyline that you created at the beginning and in between stories for our collab Halloween episode.
Oh, the Playlist of the Dead? Mm-hmm.
Yes, I really, really was inspired by that whole like creating a little storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So I may have started and ended this thing with a spooky scene. And here we go.
Oh, spider droppings. I must have forgotten to put the close sign up. Welcome to the Krusty Cauldron, your one-stop shop for criminal crystals and petty potions. Unfortunately, we are closed for Halloween night. You can return tomorrow for half-off rat tails if you... Oh my! You look utterly desperate, dearie. Rough day?
Yes, you could say that. I'm supposed to meet up with a Tinder date for the first time tonight at a Halloween party.
Ah, yes, I see. And you are in search of what exactly? A revealing costume? A ghoulish gift? Or perhaps a pep talk is all you desire?
No, none of that can help me. What I really want, what I really need...
Go on, child. Tell me what you require.
I need a potion to make me sexy.
I do have a few options for those looking to up their sex appeal. Follow me to the back of the shop. But beware! There is a large step up ahead. This is what I like to call the seduction section. We have all the standard potions, a cutesy concoction, tantalizing tonic, and the bestseller, Bootylicious Brew.
I'd love to chug down all three real quick if that's an option. I'll pay whatever it costs. I can't wait to be sexy.
Uh-huh. You know, witchcraft is nothing to take lightly. The power in these potions is something to consider a great deal before ingesting a single drop.
I'm sorry to seem pushy. I just...
Before I give out any potions, there is something you must hear. Gather round my magical crystal ball, child, as I play you a cautionary tale from Live, Laugh, Larceny podcast. Heed the warnings of this story, and then you can decide if you are truly ready to become sexy.
The skies were an eerie gray on October 22nd, 2010, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It was just about as bleak and clouded as the mindset of 27-year-old Matthew Dixon. Halloween was fast approaching, and he still hadn't settled on a proper costume. Normally, he wouldn't stress about what to wear, but his girlfriend, Kirsty, who goes by Kitty, was known for her Halloween parties. They were more like raves, with neon laser lights shooting across dark walls, and equal parts liquor and beats pulsating through your costumed veins. Although the lights were kept dim, it was easy to see that everyone in attendance was hot, both physically and literally, allowing all the partygoers to show off as much skin as possible.
Nice ball sack, Steve!
Of course, Matthew had no idea just how sensual Kitty's Halloween gatherings were when he showed up to his first one the year prior. While everyone else revealed their toned bodies and dressed as sexy animals, rock stars, and nuns,
Forgive me, O Lord, for I have sinned.
Matthew came dressed as a rotting zombie with old clothing torn in all the wrong places.
Why is he so scary?
Let's just say it wasn't the greatest first impression, and this year, he wanted to get it right. After eating dinner that evening and downing many beers for courage, it was time for him to go shopping. Matthew got into his car and drove to a nearby Party Galaxy store. He knew that this shop had the biggest selection of costumes and was determined to find the best one. Only, after walking through the Halloween aisles, it was clear that dressing as a sexy male was going to be more difficult than he had imagined. Being 2010, the most popular men's costumes were either a pale Edward Cullen from the Twilight series, a blue creature from the movie Avatar, or an extremely tan Jersey Shore cast member.
It's t-shirt time!
Ooh, fist bump, fist bump.
Matthew just wanted to feel confident in his own skin. He had searched through the entire men's section when he stumbled into the female side. Once there, he stopped dead in his tracks. This area oozed of sexuality and flirtation, whether or not the costume was of Wonder Woman or Catwoman.
Meow.
He was surrounded by latex Lady Gagas, naughty Hogwarts witches, and nurses that were sure to increase patients' heart rates. Matthew stood in awe at the countless attractive options when he spotted it.
Holy shit.
The costume was the perfect mix of sporty and sassy. Directly in his eyesight was the makings of a sexy referee. The bagged outfit hung from the wall with a photo in front of a busty blonde model showing it off to buyers. The 3-piece set came with a form-fitting black and white striped top with a plummeting V neckline. It also came with black spandex booty shorts and tall black and white stockings. Matthew pictured the way the tight costume would highlight his pecs and behind, causing him to grin. It wasn't completely perfect, due to the fact that it was a costume intended for ladies. Plus, he would have to provide his own whistle. But he knew if he was going to dress to impress, this had to be it. Perhaps he was feeling self-conscious about purchasing feminine clothing, had too much to drink that night, or was wanting to save some money to purchase a much-needed whistle. No matter the reasoning, Matthew then got an extra nasty idea. He snatched up the costume and tried to walk inconspicuously toward the back of the party store. Looking around slowly, he saw no workers in sight. With his hand shaking, Matthew opened the plastic bag and removed the referee costume. He balled it up in his hands and shoved it deep into the crotch of his pants. Just as he situated his stuffed junk, Matthew looked up and straight into the eyes of the store security guard a few aisles away. Panicking, Matthew yanked the costume out of his bulging jeans and turned away from the guard. He then took off, tossing the once admired sultry garb like a piece of garbage into a nearby rack. Jogging now, he could see the store's exit when he felt someone grab his arm from behind. Without needing to look back, Matthew knew it was the security guard. The two men played tug-of-war for a while, using their arms as the rope, until, ultimately, Matthew fell to the ground in defeat. He was handcuffed as he laid out on the hard Party Galaxy floor. The guard looked down at him and said,
You didn't have the sex appeal for the referee costume you tried to steal. You're on my field now, buddy, where I call the shots. I'm ejecting you from this game and down to the station.
On Friday, October 22nd, 2010, 27-year-old Matthew Dixon was caught shoplifting from a Party Galaxy store on 300 South MacArthur Boulevard in Oklahoma City. According to an Oklahoma City Police Department report, it was around 7:45 p.m. when an off-duty, ununiformed cop working security at the store spotted Matthew attempting to shoplift. The item in question was a 3-piece Leg Avenue sexy referee costume valued at $34.99. The security guard allegedly saw Matthew walk with the costume toward the back of the store, remove the costume from its packaging, and conceal it inside his pants. When Matthew saw the officer, he tried to discard the costume. The officer then grabbed Matthew's arm, causing him to fall to the ground. He was handcuffed and taken to jail on complaints of larceny of merchandise and obstructing an officer. It is reported that on the trip to jail, Matthew said he struggled with alcohol issues and had started drinking that evening after 6 months of being sober. He also admitted that he, quote, always makes bad choices when he drinks. This appears to be true, as Matthew had previous convictions for a DUI and aggravated reckless driving from a 2006 case, warrants for failure to appear at court appearances related to a 2008 felony conviction for a DUI, and another DUI that included obstructing an officer, driving with a suspended or revoked license, and transporting an open bottle of alcohol from a 2009 case. It is unclear whether or not he planned on wearing the sexy referee outfit himself, or if it was intended for someone else.
Now, do you see the importance of your decision, dearie? How the desire to be desirable can lead you down some undesirable paths? I'll give you a minute to make your decision.
I'll take all 3 potions, please. Plus an espresso if you've got it. That long story nearly put me to sleep.
That'll be $82.16, dearie. I can take cash, card, or cryptocurrency.
Here's some cash. Keep the change. Bye.
It's too bad the boy didn't listen carefully to my story. I would have given him his love spells instead of frog froth for bad breath, sleeping serum to send him to bed early, and memory mixture to forget ever coming to my shop. Oh well, we can't all have brains and beauty, even with the help from a spell book. It's time to close shop and celebrate this witch's favorite holiday. To all the sexy, scary, and standard-looking people out there listening, Happy Halloween!
All right, you devil.
Before we talk about this, shout out for being a character and for being a felony patron member to Kirsty, a.k.a. Kitty, a.k.a. Kitty Bear online.
Kitty Bear, you know we love you. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, I can't believe we haven't had you in a story sooner.
No, and also I don't think I said in the last episode, Sydney B, thank you so much for being a patron too.
Sydney B, thank you. Wasn't she the EMS person?
Yeah.
Oh my God, for the man who chopped off his own feet?
Yeah, it's vein gravy.
Oh my God, she deserves a proper shout out as well. Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, if you would like your story to appear in one of our petty crimes, just join our Patreon felony membership. But yeah, thank you, Kitty. I hoped you enjoyed being the sensual, sexy Halloween host for this episode.
And this is technically the second story she's been in, so that's...
Oh, that's so true.
2-timers gold jacket or something.
That's so true. Also, confession to everyone. After I had already written the majority of my story, I found another article, and I realized that this new article said that the sexy referee costume was actually a dress, okay? And it did come with a whistle.
Hell yeah.
When I was researching the story, I just looked up Leg Avenue sexy referee costumes, and I was like, just for my story purposes, I wanted him to be stealing it for himself. Mm-hmm. I could have easily said he was stealing it for his girlfriend or a female lady friend or whoever the heck.
Yeah.
But I just thought it'd be funnier if he was trying to be sexy himself and wanted it. And I found one of them that was exactly the one I described, and it didn't come with a whistle, and it was just the shirt, the booty shorts, and the socks.
Ugh.
And then after I wrote it and I made all those whistle jokes, I found that out. So I did have to really put that in there that is factual.
Could you imagine if one of those sleuthy listeners were just like, oh no, 1 star, totally had a whistle.
That would be so hateful. Please don't do that to me.
Great research on this show.
Yeah, seriously. But that's really all I wanted to say is that it very well could have been for somebody else. I just wanted to write it that way. So if he ever does listen to this, I'm just freaked out now that the Bachelorette gal heard it. So if you're listening, Matthew, naughty, you shouldn't be drinking while driving. I'm surprised they didn't give him a DUI for this instance as well.
For real.
But also shouldn't be stealing sexy Halloween costumes. My God.
No, I was really hoping that you were going to say he put it on underneath his clothes to try to steal it.
No, shoved it straight into the crotch of his pants. And how did you feel about playing that character in the beginning and the end of my story, Trevin?
You know, that was very interesting. I like to play around with the format and do things differently. And I don't think I've ever completely taken away the prologue that sets the theme.
Yeah.
And to do it as a scene already was definitely a different thing, but definitely fun because it's a Halloween special.
Yeah, it's a hot new take. Like I was saying earlier, I really liked the script for the collab episode. And I was like, I want to set a scene. I want to make a spooky scene. And I just had a lot of fun. And it kind of just tied it all together, trying to teach him a lesson. Well, who knows if he'll ever learn it.
We grew up with a lot of scenes like that. If you look back to like old Donald Duck cartoons or Mickey Mouse or all those things, they always start off with, oh, here's Mickey and Minnie, and they're like setting up some bit of a storyline before we get a cartoon that has nothing to do with these characters most of the time.
Yep.
I don't know why it's almost like they have to have that little cameo there to make you feel like you're still watching a Mickey Mouse cartoon, even though this is like the intern's extra scraps that you just needed to make an extra episode with.
Yeah, I love that whole, I don't know, storytelling type.
It's very fun to do that.
It's cheesy, but perfect for Halloween.
I could see you doing a Tales from the Crypt sort of podcast. Like once we're really big or something and somebody else wants to do a spinoff and like, we need a host for this. You could be their Rainn Wilson, like their radio rental witch woman.
Oh, I would love to be Witch Wanda for an ongoing show or something. That would be so fun.
You do love your witch voice. Well, I enjoyed the funness of that. And for me this week, I actually am going on a little more on the fun side myself too.
Nice.
Last week's episode, I ended up loving so much with the Fox News story, and I almost thought this should have been my Halloween story. So this one has to be so much different, and this one is just full-blown having some fun.
Oh, good.
This was actually one that happened last year. After I had written all of those Halloween stories, I had opened up my Google and there it was, and I was like, oh my gosh, perfect, I'll save it for next year. So this was actually the one that I've had since day one, and I held onto it for a whole year.
Oh my God.
The story also takes place in another country with names that I'm not going to do great with. I'm trying, I've looked them up, but I don't know how good I'm going to do.
I think it's going to be great. I did notice recently on our Facebook group that one of our members, Alex, said Trevin's Brooklyn accent is horrible, but I'm here for it. So thank you, Alex, and thank you to everyone who deals with our mispronunciations and bad accents.
Oh, yes. In that, I commented and said, born to write, forced to act.
Preach.
I'm not a great actor, but it is fun trying and doing it. So,
yes.
Without any further ado, here is my Halloween story. And here we go. Have you ever wondered if demons walk among us? I do. But the answers are scattered, each depending on who you ask. If you ask the adults in the small Missouri town where I grew up, they'd swear demons were everywhere, summoned simply by speaking of them. For them, demons lurk in violent video games, movies, and even politicians they don't like.
This one has to be the devil.
A convenient scapegoat draped in supernatural belief. My cats, on the other hand, seem to see demons outright. They stick their asses in the air, tails flicking, eyes darting like they're tracking something unseen. Then with a yowl, they sprint off, playing tag with spirits I can't perceive. For me, demons aren't supernatural. They're just people acting out their worst instincts, shaped by fear and belief. But Halloween blurs the lines between play and sin. Our children, the little angels we adore, gladly wear the faces of demons, celebrating what we teach them to fear. Meanwhile, my cats have been puking a lot more, and I'm starting to wonder if one got possessed. This Halloween, the fragile line between good and evil is about to snap, unleashing a new kind of darkness on a small village in the Czech Republic. Satan is on full display, and the question remains, will good prevail, or are we facing another season of evil? Dearly beloved, let us turn to Scripture. 1 Corinthians 10:21. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot partake in the table of the Lord and the table of demons. Now this verse sought me out. The good Lord spoke to me and said, Google some verses about demons. And lo and behold, that search engine led me right to this one. And let me tell you, that's no coincidence. That's a miracle. The good Lord grabbed hold of me tightly. It flowed like a harpoon,
daily and nightly. He said, "Father, Halloween is this week, and demons are everywhere. You must steer your flock from the evils of the Western world, and from God's lips to my ears, and now my lips to yours. I must deliver this sermon as a warning for the day of evil that lies ahead. I've already seen the signs. Our sacred homes where we raised our children are being decorated with 12-foot skeletons, spooky red eyes, and graveyard scenes with arms crawling out of the earth. I don't know about you, brothers and sisters, but there's only one man I know who rose from the grave, and it sure wasn't Barry D. Live, no matter what the cardboard tombstone says. If we're going to resurrect anyone, let's make sure it's Jesus, not some Halloween trickster with a punny name. And speaking of tricksters, let me remind you, the devil is in the details. We must stay vigilant against these petty evils, lest they creep into our lives like weeds in a garden, or worse, like those unsightly inflatable lawn decorations. Apologies, everyone. It seems the mischief of Halloween, and perhaps even a little of Satan himself, has already taken a hold of some of our youngsters. I hope our little laughers for the Lord won't mind seeing me after the closing prayer, where I'll be introducing them to the book of Revelation and the awesome fear of God.
Meet Father Schmeichel, priest of the Roman Catholic Church of St. John the Baptist. In his many years of preaching the gospel, he had witnessed countless affirmations of his faith. But unlike Father Damien from The Exorcist, who battled demons with shaky hands and faltering beliefs, Father Schmeichel led with unwavering conviction. While others might tremble at the forces of darkness, he stood firm, seeing the evils of the world more clearly than ever, especially as Halloween approached. Throughout his tenure, Father Schmeichel watched church attendance drop to alarming lows, a stark reflection of the Czech Republic's reputation as one of the least religious countries in the world. With Halloween looming each year, vibrant celebrations seemed to drown out the quiet whispers of faith that once resonated through the community. The streets filled with costumed revelers, while the church's pews remained largely empty, leaving him to endure countless Halloweens, each one draining him more than the last. The fight against Satan felt increasingly relentless with every October, as locals flipped a switch, disregarding everything they'd learned in church and embracing a night devoted to mischief and darkness. With the arrival of the devil season, Father Schmeichel kicked his efforts into overdrive, preaching a little harder, praying a little longer, and triple filtering the holy water to make it that much more pure. To him, October was like flu season for the church, and these extra steps were his spiritual version of airborne and chicken soup. But the mischief during his last sermon before Halloween served as a chilling reminder that maybe, just maybe, he was slipping. Satan was possessing his youths to act out during the holiest time of the week. Somehow, the tricks and treats of the demonic holiday had found their way into his sacred space.
Amen.
As the churchgoers stood from their seats after the final prayer, Father Schmeichel walked back to his quarters to come down from his preaching high. Having a large group of people hanging on his every word always energized him. Yet, despite the sweat from battling demons with his words, he couldn't fully enjoy the moment, still haunted by the children's interruptions during his lesson. Dabbing his forehead with a cloth, Father Schmeichel sank into his imposing leather chair, striking a posture of authority for the young children he had invited for a chat.
Father?
A small voice squeaked from behind the slightly ajar door.
"Come in, my child,"
he replied, maintaining a stern tone. As the door creaked open, little Tiffany P. and her friend Chuck, the gigglers from his lesson, stepped inside. Father Schmeichel had known Tiffany and her family for quite some time. While she had an impressive taste in podcasts for someone so young, this one public nuisance with her less important friend was enough for the preacher to suspect she might be losing her way. Father Schmeichel watched as the two children settled into the smaller chairs in front of his desk, his gaze shifting between them.
"Have you two learned what happens during the end of days? When God saves the believers and brutally murders everyone else? Bad children will witness brimstone raining down, melting their parents' faces right in front of them.
I love you, Timmy!
There will be so many locusts that you could never return an entree at a restaurant for finding a wing in your meal. Every worst nightmare you've ever had will come to pass if you don't believe, and your outburst during today's lesson leads me to suspect that you might be a Satanist. Now, what was so funny that it distracted you from fearing eternal damnation?"
Tiffany flinched nervously, kicking her open backpack to the side. A thin plastic shell tumbled out and hit the floor. She froze as Father Schmeichel stepped around his desk to retrieve it. As he approached the item, he sensed it was no ordinary cheap plastic shell. It had 2 eye holes and a black string attached. When he picked it up and turned it over to reveal its painted side, his worst fears materialized. Not only had these kids missed his powerful sermon, but they had been distracted by a Halloween mask. Father Schmeichel examined the face in his hands, a cheap off-brand knockoff of Margot Robbie from the recent blockbuster, Barbie. He traced the dollar store quality mask's flawless cheekbones up to its open eye holes. While it was a safety hazard for a mask to lack them, the priest knew that the eyes were designed to keep children's focus on the devil. Taking in his disgust for the holiday and the anti-patriarchal questions that sprang from kids after seeing that movie, Father Schmeichel threw the mask into the trash, sending a clear warning to the two children.
Each of you go home, say 20 Hail Marys, tithe all your allowance, and stay far, far away from Halloween. Your disregard for spiritual safety has me smelling brimstone already, he said, shaken by their actions. And I don't know if you realize how frightening that is, but brimstone is the scariest kind of stone. You are dismissed.
The two stood up, immediately bursting into tears as they ran to their respective parents. Tiffany bawled into her dad's good church shirt as he leaned back into the room from which his daughter had just fled. I really appreciate how you made my daughter cry, he said to the priest. I'm sure this will leave her with no complicated feelings towards me or the church whatsoever. As the parents ushered their children away, Father Schmeichel felt the weight of his earlier words pressing heavily on his heart. The encounter had stirred a mix of guilt and anxiety about the impending holiday that stuck with him throughout the rest of the day. Would his preparation holiness be enough to keep the demons at bay? Maybe the years of fighting a perpetual war between good and evil were finally getting the best of him. As dusk settled over Kurdijev, he decided to take a walk, hoping the fresh air would help clear his mind and bring him some clarity. Wearing his walking loafers, he set out for a stroll, seeking any sign of assistance from the big man upstairs. As Father Schmeichel strolled through Kurdijev City Park, he listened to the birds and rustling leaves, seeking any sign from above. But, as with his sermon earlier, Halloween's evils soon interrupted his peace. The nature sounds around him began to cut out, as if the holiday itself was strangling his surroundings, and a cold breeze sent a chill up his big Catholic preacher dress. He quickened his pace, anxious to get back to the church. Father Schmeichel kept his eyes focused on the sidewalk ahead. He glanced at the houses he passed, paying particular attention to a different kind of light source that illuminated the path he would normally take. It had a golden hue and a flickering movement, adding to its already ominous essence. As the glow grew larger with each step, the priest clutched his cross for safety. The sight was worse than he'd anticipated. This was no emergency or small house fire. It was a display of 12 carved jack-o'-lanterns, shining brightly from the candles within them. Father Schmeichel spat on the ground.
This is a satanic feast,
he yelled. He stood among the many illuminated faces designed to represent a child's idea of a monster. Listening for the voice of God in this trying time, all he heard was laughter echoing around him, impossible to muffle even when he pressed his hands to his ears.
The power of Christ compels you,
he announced, lifting his knee high before forcefully stomping down on the one he suspected to be the leader. The laughter ceased immediately, leaving Father Schmeichel panting and covered in pumpkin guts, with one foot planted firmly in a jack-o'-lantern's head. The 11 other demon pumpkins continued to stare at him, their silence quickly replaced by whispers increasing in volume.
Keep your hellish ways away from Tiffany P. and the rest of my flock,
he yelled, descending into a pumpkin-smashing berserker rage. He stomped relentlessly, river dancing on the heads of his enemies, turning the demonic jack-o'-lanterns into pumpkin puree. Seeds and pumpkin shit splattered onto the bushes as he kicked and crushed every last one. Once the cleansing was complete, he slowly walked back to the church, where he did a little cleansing of his own in the baptismal bathtub. That night, Father Schmeichel slept soundly, pumpkin remnants still dripping down his loafers. The next day, Father Schmeichel carried himself with the swagger you'd expect from a televangelist. After all, he had single-handedly defended his flock, taking a stand against Satan's holiday and protecting other innocent children from falling prey to the indoctrination that had claimed Tiffany P. and Chuck. In his eyes, this one act alone was enough to earn him a luxury condo in heaven. A little too eager for his Monday evening walk, Father Schmeichel left earlier, beginning his stroll at a more well-lit time. He completed his usual lap around the park, heading back along the sidewalk that led to the church. The walk was as peaceful as the day before, maybe even more so, thanks to the earlier hour. The park's perimeter shrubbery and neighboring houses looked far less menacing in the daylight, free from the eerie shadows that lingered during the previous evening, and there was no bright orange glow from the jack-o'-lanterns that had disrupted his path before. He inhaled the crisp autumn air, preparing a casual, confident expression in case any onlooker saw him approaching the scene of last night's righteous battle. But before he could perfect his relaxed demeanor, the air was swiftly knocked from his lungs by a far more terrifying sight. There, in the exact spot as last night's Catholic carnage, stood 12 new jack-o'-lanterns, grinning wickedly, as if replaced by the devil himself. Father Schmeichel stared at the demonic decorations, taking in their rough, hastily carved faces, clearly the craftsmanship of an overworked and vengeful Satan.
Is that the best you've got, Lucifer?
The holy man sneered at the grinning jack-o'-lanterns, bending down to adjust his dress socks with precision, his recently polished loafers gleaming under the streetlights. With his footwear now perfectly primed for justice, Father Schmeichel lifted his foot high, the strains of an off-brand Smashing Pumpkins song echoing in his mind.
The world is a jack-o'-lantern.
In late October of 2023, a small town in Czech Republic was rattled by an unusual string of pumpkin smashing incidents. In the quiet village of Kordajev, a group of local children had proudly decorated their jack-o'-lanterns as part of a Halloween celebration. But the festive mood quickly soured when the pumpkins were found smashed to pieces the next morning. Determined to keep the Halloween spirit alive, the kids and their families worked together to replace the destroyed pumpkins, only to face the same devastation the following night. This bizarre pumpkin massacre left the town confused and outraged, and whispers of a pumpkin vandal spread quickly through local Facebook groups. After some determined online sleuthing by parents and neighbors, the identity of the pumpkin smasher was finally revealed. It wasn't some neighborhood troublemaker, but the priest of St. John the Baptist Roman Catholic Church, Father Jaromír Schmeichel. The story, first reported by the town's newspaper, Berklavský deník, soon gained widespread attention, prompting public outrage. As demands for an apology grew, Father Schmeichel addressed the town with an open letter to the mayor, which was later shared on the village's Facebook page. In his letter, Father Schmeichel attempted to justify his actions with a somewhat defensive tone.
Leaving the rectory on Sunday evening, I saw numerous symbols of the Satanic feast of Halloween placed in front of our sacred grounds. I acted according to my faith and duty to be a father and protector of the children entrusted to me and removed these symbols.
He asserted he had no intention of hurting anyone, especially children. Yet his words carried a hint of condescension, as he insisted that Halloween, in its modern form, was rooted in what he called a heathen contemporary world. The priest concluded with a thinly veiled defense.
My duty as a figure of authority and a priest is to protect children and family from hidden evil,
failing to acknowledge the chaos he had caused in the process. According to the BBC, the Czech Republic is considered one of the least religious countries in the world, but traditional religious feasts like All Souls' Day remain popular, observed by both believers and atheists alike. So there you have it. A Halloween crime where the only punishment was a forced apology. And even that came off more like a sorry not sorry. If you're planning any demonic shenanigans this Halloween season, just make sure you don't run into pumpkin-hating anti-hero like Father Schmeichel. Whether or not you think modern traditions are evil, nobody likes a fun stealer. And when that fun is stomped out in the name of religion, it leaves an especially sour taste. So go ahead, summon up your Halloween fun, and let's hope no priest tries to put their foot in it.
Oh, hell no. If anyone smashed the jack-o'-lanterns that I just carved with my family and my kids, I would be so mad.
Also, how many people actually are so quick to replace it? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, that is interesting. They're like, that got destroyed. Need to go carve another one.
Yeah, apparently the kids were pretty upset. I took a bunch of reading different things to realize this, but it was a thing done for an actual celebration by the city. At first, a lot of the articles make it seem like it was just a bunch of kids that did it, but it was actually like a town thing that they did together. So this guy wasn't just smashing pumpkins that he just didn't agree with, but he was also smashing on the town's tradition.
Exactly.
And then he's still just kind of sorry, not sorry. I have to protect my people. Which
oh my gosh.
makes it even more silly when you find out that it's like one of the least religious countries too. So most people are probably like, you're kind of an asshole.
They're like, can you stop destroying our artwork, please?
Father Schmeichel.
Schmeichel. And also, let's give a shout out to
Tiffany P.
Tiffany P. You played a precious little darling angel that got lectured by this mean man.
Yes, let me introduce you to my fear of God.
Well, that was very surprising. Kind of like I said earlier, mine was a little more of a serious topic having to do with the minister in my segment. But a lot of times people just think that ministers can't do anything wrong. And that's not the case. We can all be petty. We can all do wrong.
I was thinking, what a good connection I'm going to have with your fact or segment.
Minister's gone mad. No. Also, a tie-in to both of our stories, we both did make silly little puns in there. You said buried E live as the tombstone, and I said cryptocurrency in mine.
Okay, so I took mine. I actually looked up those cheesy little things because my neighbors have one down there. I don't like the pun on theirs as much.
Yeah.
I looked up all the different Amazon choices and I just stole the best one I found.
It's great.
Did you come up with cryptocurrency on your own? Because I like that a lot.
Yes. I'm sure that's a joke online too, but
Like a Halloween joke book for like 5-year-olds or something?
no, usually I do, like if I'm trying to make a joke about bunnies or whatever, like, you know, in the past, I've definitely done that. This was just, I was going to say cash card or cryptocurrency, and then I was like, crypt. And I was like, okay, you got to. But yeah. It was just funny that we both had those puns. It was just something that stood out.
This was definitely my one to just go all out and just be silly, fun, goofy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we know what led him to do it. He just really believes in his faith. But I thought giving the background of somebody interrupting his beautiful sermon would be a good starting place for the story.
And very relatable. As a kid, when I was made to go to church, I would draw little notes and giggle with my friends. And oh, yeah, it's very relatable.
Yeah, I hope that didn't offend anybody. But I think we're kind of going for a trilogy of offensive subject matter, as I was telling you in the little break we took in the middle here. Last week, I did my Fox News story. This week, I've got my preacher main character.
And you had also the foot story.
And I had the foot story, yes. And now, just so you guys know, next week, I do plan on taking a week off in a couple weeks. But I'm not taking next week off because it ties in with a certain something happening too, if you think of something that might offend somebody.
Oh my God, he's going to cover them all. But I thought that you did not only a good job of covering this, we don't care what your religion are. We love people that are religious. We grew up going to church, so it's fine. It's all fun.
I poke fun at everything, anything, everything.
We like to poke fun at everyone. You're not singled out, I promise. But you also did a really good job at pronouncing the names, I thought.
Oh, thank you. I had a lot of whatever you like pronunciations next to it. But Yermir, I don't know if I'm doing that one correct. I just thought about looking it up before we started the story. So
it sounded believable to me.
I made sure to only call him Father Schmeichel the whole time, but I forgot at the very end I do say his first name.
Schmeichel.
Schmeichel.
What a name. And what an amazing time of year. I hope that everyone is having the best Halloween week out there. And remember, no matter the crime, big or small, in the end, we're all doomed.
Doomed to be hot to go for Halloween this year.
Bye.
See ya.
Well, if this Halloween episode and the special collab episode just isn't enough Halloween for you, come on over to Patreon. We just recently watched Saw. We've got movie nights, bonus episodes, and ad-free content.
And do you have any weird reoccurring things in your dreams? Why don't you tell us about it on social media? Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, or Threads. Live, Laugh, Larceny.
And have you ever smashed someone else's pumpkin? If you did, do tell. Send us your story, livelaughlarceny@gmail.com.
And give our show the same rating you know Amanda's gonna earn with her party. 5 stars. Rate our show wherever you rate podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or Good Pods. The good Lord grabbed hold of me tightly. It flowed like a harpoon, daily and nightly.